Hey ho, my name is Joe, and today we're going to be talking about some books that have stuck with me. Hello there, my name is Joanna. I refer to myself here as Joe, right on this fabulous booktube community, because if you are new here, that's who I am, your total typical coffee-loving book addict who will always give a book a chance at least once if you recommend it to me. So go ahead and leave a recommendation down below if you think I would like a certain book. So I have actually compiled a list of all the books that I can remember that I've ever read in my whole entire lifetime of my whole reading journey. And it was really hard to do, but I came up with 7 books that I kind of felt like have stuck with me. So let's go ahead and jump in and see these. I don't know. Let's just go ahead and jump in. Coffee. Okay, let's jump in. The first book that we have on this list is one that I actually read last year, and ever since I read this book, I've kind of always found myself thinking about it. I kind of found myself always talking about it, always recommending it to somebody who kind of wants like a bittersweet slash fluffy type book. And that is Letters to the Lost by Brigd Kemmerer. And if you guys are not familiar with this story, you follow 2 main characters, which are you follow Juliet and you follow Declan, who Juliet is basically struggling with the death of her mother, and she goes to her mother's grave and like will put down like some letters and stuff like that, and just talking to her mom basically. And then one day she gets a response, and I don't want to give any spoilers away if you want to read this, but she gets a response from this letter, and they end up kind of talking back and forth through letters, and then they go digital. So then he kind of suggests like an email and everything like that, and then they end up going digital. So you follow him, and then you also follow her. So you follow them like throughout the whole entire story, and like their relationship kind of develops, and in real life, they actually hate each other. They completely and utterly hated each other. They wouldn't have anything to do with each other, but on the line, through email, they were falling in love with each other. And I absolutely loved this when I read it, and the story has stuck with me because I feel like it was a very good modern day falling in love type story, like a modern day Romeo and Juliet. And Brigd Kemmerer did a fantastic job with this. If you have not read this, I actually would recommend it to anybody who wants to, just because this story is just beautiful. So that is the first. Moving on to the next. So this next one really shouldn't be a surprise to a lot of you, only because I talk about this book a lot, only because it is one of my absolute favorite books. And not only that, it is one of those stories that have kind of stuck with me for a very long time, and it's always been one of those books that I feel like I could go back to kind of calm myself down, or it kind of feels like one of those stories that I could always go back to if I need like a comfort or anything like that. So I'm gonna hold it up, and it's probably gonna be no surprise to you, and I feel like I really shouldn't talk about it either, but I'm going to. Inkheart by Cornelia Funke. And if you guys are not familiar with this story, you follow a girl named Maggie and her father. They have this special power where they read a book out loud, it comes to life. And mainly what they're trying to figure out, they're trying to put a story back together. They're trying to put everything back together in this one story, and also trying to find her mother, who one day disappeared from one of the characters that came out of a book called Inkheart. So that's mainly what this story is about. I'm not going to go into full-on great detail because I actually have a video coming where I'm going to talk about the whole entire Inkheart trilogy. I'm still in the process of rereading the whole entire series again. I'm still in the middle of Ink Spell because I just haven't gotten my time to actually want to read it. So here we are. Moving on. Alright, next we have Haunted Sister. I don't have the actual dust jacket to this, so I post a picture of that right here. But this is Haunted Sister, and this was a really quick read the first time I read it, and you follow a girl, I can't remember her name, named Lenore, I believe her name was. You follow a girl named Lenore, and she ends up skipping school and getting into a car accident with her boyfriend or friend interest, boyfriend, friend interest, something like that. And she ends up herself in the hospital. Then all of a sudden she starts hearing a voice. And then come to find out, this voice that she is hearing is actually her twin sister. So then mainly her twin sister tries to take over her body and take over everything around her and everything that she basically worked hard for. And the reason that the sisters try to take over is her twin sister actually died when they were like really little. Like, I want to say it was like maybe 3 or 4 even, maybe even actually even younger. And so she comes back to basically take over her sister's body because her sister basically had a near-death experience. So she kind of tries to come and take over her body, but Lenore is still aware of everything. She's still here. She's still with us. But then, you know, her twin sister is still coming in trying to take over her life. And that's mainly what this is about. And I feel like this story stuck with me just because it was one of those that I read in an afternoon. It was one of those that I can read perfectly fine in an afternoon. And I think I actually devoured this in one sitting. And it was just the story. I find myself thinking about it. I find myself talking about it. And I actually sometimes see this story in everyday life when I see twins, especially when they're identical twins, because they were identical twins. And when my husband told me that he was a twin, I automatically thought of this book. And then he told me, well, I have a twin sister, not a twin brother. I'm like, oh, okay, so fraternal twins, okay. So, but I still thought of this book when he told me that he was a twin, because anytime I think of twins, I automatically think of this. So, you guys haven't actually read this, I would highly recommend it. I think I'm actually going to try to reread this and see what rating I would actually give it. Now that I've kind of exposed myself to more books, we'll actually see where this sits on my scale now. But absolutely awesome book. If you guys haven't read it, you really should pick it up. Alright, next we have Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. You guys probably remember this. I actually read this for my September readathon last year in 2019. And this story has stuck with me so much because just the amazing Amy in here, amazing mastermind Amy, I find myself thinking about her all the time. I find myself just thinking about poor Nick, and then I think about, well, Nick was a jerk. Nick is an, excuse the expression, but asshole. And I loved Nick at the beginning of it, but then toward the middle of it, I hated Nick, and I was more rooting for Amy at that point. I kind of wish that I could kind of be like Amy and just have that mastermind that she did, only because, wow, like this book blew my mind, and I find myself recommending it to anybody who loves thrillers. I find myself recommending it to coworkers. I find myself recommending it to my brother, my sister-in-law, everybody I can think of that loves a thriller. I've been recommending this book to them. And I've also seen the movie for it, but the movie was also not as great, but the movie did follow pretty well with the book, but I feel like it left out a couple of details. But anyway, if you are a thriller fan, if you love just mastermind serial killer type books, I would highly recommend this to you. So go check it out because you will not be sorry. Alright, the next book that has always kind of stuck with me, and I even reread it last year just because I love it so much, that is Out of the Dust by Karen Heist. You guys have heard me talk about this book before, and this follows a girl named Bobby Jo who is in the whole Dust Bowl Depression era, and she ends up losing her mom and her baby brother, and she's just trying to survive and just trying to get used to her being around her father. Like, her and her father didn't have the best relationship, so she's trying to basically just coexist with her father, and in the end they basically end up having a really good relationship and all that, but it's told in verse, so it's a really quick and easy read. And the way the story is just told, I think it's wonderful. I love everything about learning about anything about the Dust Bowl and the Depression era, and all that. Like, it's just always been one of my favorites, and this is no exception. This story has always stuck with me. I find myself thinking about this story when somebody even mentions the Great Depression or the Dust Bowl, or honestly when I have customers that come in to my fast food job or my retail job who are kind of a little bit older up in age, and they're kind of like, were born like during that time. I only think like, okay, how hard was it? Like, I find myself actually having conversations with them about it, and it brings me back right to this story, and I actually recommend this story to them. Like, there's a book out there called Out of the Dust by Karen Hesse. You really should read it, maybe so you can kind of get a general idea, and maybe you might relate to it. It's not trying to be mean to them, it's just say you might relate to it, and I think it'd be a book you'd actually enjoy. So I do find myself recommending this actually a lot to people, and I would actually recommend it to you if you love anything Dust Bowl or Depression era related. Moving on. Alright, and the next one is one that has stuck with me since I've read it. And the reason that this one has stuck with me is just the amount of torture that this poor little boy had to go through. Just the amount of torture that his father went through before he died, and just the amount of torture that he saw around him. And that is Night by Wiesel. There is really actually no words for this book. There is no anything for this book. Like, it's just one of those ones that you just have to read. If you are a fan of the Holocaust, I would highly recommend this book to you, just because there is not even enough words in the world to describe the emotions, the feelings, the amount of torture that just went on in this book. He definitely wrote it when he was older, and he was seeing all of this like when he was 8 years old, and he lost his father at 9, and there's not even words to describe this. I just can say that it's just a mind-blowing book just to see that poor little boy go through everything. I feel like I actually finished this in like a couple days even. I mean, it's not very long. It's only like 120 pages, so I feel like a very good fast reader could probably get through this in an afternoon. But even then, again, there is no words as I can describe this book. Like, not just the feelings and just the emotions that I even think of when I talk about this. I even get teared up. Like, it's a hard book to talk about, and the story has definitely stuck with me. And I would definitely recommend this to anybody, and I mean anybody who loves anything to do with the Holocaust. Alright, and the last book that I have on this list is a book that stuck with me, and I read it after I read the Twilight series, and was not really expecting what I got, but I really overall enjoyed it, and I find myself thinking about it, and I find myself talking about it, and I find myself wanting to put it back on my TBR list so I can reread it. And that is The Host by Stephine Meyer. If you are not familiar with this, you follow a girl named Littke who... See, I can't even remember. It's been so long. Let's see. So you follow a girl named Littke who basically refuses to fade away. So our world has been invaded by an unseen enemy. Humans become hosts for these invaders. Their minds are taken over, their bodies remain intact, and continue their lives apparently unchanged. So Littke is basically a human who refuses to fade away. And you follow her, and there are a few what they call wild humans who still wander around, because they're basically aliens. They have taken over the human race. So we have the wild humans who are trying to basically make it in the world, and with the aliens to try to take over. And there's one alien that kind of took over Milan, and she's just facing all the overwhelming emotions that humans have and not really sure how to deal with it. The alien is still in love with her past, but Milan is still in love with her present, and it's just kind of it's a little bit confusing at first when you kind of dive into it, but it's definitely been one of those that's kind of stuck with me because it definitely dives into human emotions. So it's a good book to kind of try to understand human emotions, and I feel like Stephine Meyer did a really good job capturing the human emotions in here, and I have actually definitely decided to dive back into this because it's been a long time since I've read it. So if you actually have made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out all my links down below, because if I'm not here making a video, I am usually on one of those social medias if I'm not working. It is what it is, guys. So leave a comment down below if you have actually read any of these books, or if you have any recommendations to me, because these books are some of my favorites that have stuck with me. Leave that comment down below as well, because I would love to know what you guys would want to recommend to me. And as always, leave any recommendations down below, because if you recommend a book to me, there's probably a guarantee that I will pick it up, because that's who I am. Here we are. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to see me reach 86 books this year. I am currently 9 books behind. But we'll get there. I feel like even if I read 50, we'll be doing fantastic. But I say that every time. I will catch you guys in my next one.